You know what I was thinking? It's been quite a while since I've had a look at a cheap Chinese knockoff crappy console. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at whatever this is actually called, which is trying to look like a Game Boy Advance SP. Let's get into it. "64-bit game. The console we've been really excited for this whole year. Here is my only yellow Game Boy Advance SP that I have, that we can sort of slightly compare it to. This is an IPS, in fact no, this is just a regular AGS 101 Game Boy, but we're going to pretty much just use it for the form factor because this thing does more than just play Game Boy Advance. So if we flip it over to this side, it says that there's a 64-bit operating system and it supports arcade, Game Boy Advance, Famicom, Super Famicom, and also the Sega Games series, which presumably is going to be the Master System and the Mega Drive or the Genesis, and supports multilingual language, which is fantastic. Very basic picture and makes the thing look absolutely ginormous. Pretty simple box. Look, no one really cares about the box, so let's just move that out of the way. Here is the actual device itself, and then in the back of it you've got a little manual thing, a tiny little white piece of cardboard, and then a USB-C charging cable, which is actually rather nice. The manual is probably not going to be something we're going to read, but let's just read one little paragraph. How to enter and exit the game. Select the corresponding simulator in the system interface to enter the game directory and select the game to enter. Exit the game in the game, press the menu key to call out the menu and select exit to return the game directory. Return to the system interface and press start key. More confused than I was before I read that. So here is the actual thing itself. Now let's really quickly put this next to this, and yeah, you can definitely see it's taken design inspiration from it. It's pretty much the same size, a little bit smaller as you can see there, but pretty much the same size. I really like it, you know, I absolutely love the form factor of it. If it's good, this is something that I'll probably actually use because I love the clamshell design. It's the Game Boy I grew up playing the most on, and I really like the colour yellow. So we've got a power switch on the side, we've got a micro SD card. On the top we have our in fact we've got 4 shoulder buttons, which is really nice. That may or may not mean that this can play PlayStation, although I very much doubt that, and I don't think it said that on the box. We've got a little lanyard hole thing in the middle, and then over on this side we've got a really cheap, nasty volume wheel, as opposed to the lovely slider that we've got on the actual Game Boy itself. And then on the bottom, we have a headphone jack, which obviously the Game Boy Advance SP already has. I'm joking, watch this video. And also the USB-C rechargeable battery jack port thing. And then in the back is a Nokia clone BL5C battery, which means that if you really like it, you can buy some more on eBay because they're really cheap and they're used by pretty much all of these things, so that's great. Let's open the lid. That's alright. So we've got a massive D-pad here. Feels actually really good, you know, very nice and sort of tactile, not too spongy, but also not too hard. And then the action buttons, a little bit less of a rigid feel, a little bit sort of cheaper, less sort of travel, but you know what, they'll do the job. I've definitely felt worse. And we've also got a start and select switch at the bottom as well, button rather, not switch. But yeah, pretty decent, pretty standard, and the screen looks really good. So that is pretty much about the comparison. We're going to put this thing away in a second, although this has also got 2 speakers on the front as opposed to the 1, hopefully meaning that this thing has actual stereo sound. So let's turn it on. Pocket go. Screen looks really good already, you know. Okay, so we're in something. Right, so I've moved the camera down slightly so we can actually see what we're doing on the screen. So here is the menu. The first thing we see is that it's sort of got some sort of old Apple background, and pressing L and R will get us through these menus. The middle buttons don't do anything just yet. So it's got a really nice skin on it already, although it does look like we can change that, hopefully find something a little bit more basic looking. There's the default one. Let's just leave it on the default one. So we'll come out of that. Save. Okay, cool. So the first thing we see is a bunch of apps that realistically I don't think anyone's ever going to use. We've got a file explorer, that might be handy, and also an MP4 player, although there's nothing in there. So emulators, we've got Game Boy, Game Boy Advance SP, NES, Super NES. We've got the PC Engine, Mega Drive, Sega Master System, or Game Gear? No, GG. Hang on. No way, they've put Master System and Game Gear in the same one. That's quite interesting. We've got Pocket SNES, Arcade, FBA, not sure what that is, Neo Geo, Wonder Swan, PlayStation 1, and then a bunch of other emulators, probably just in case the games don't run on the particular emulator. So that's pretty good. Straight away, you've got a really vast selection there, obviously. And then you've got the other games that they just randomly throw in there. For example, Doom and Cave Story, the obligatory games that are always on all these things, as well as Quake, and Mr. Drillix. So yeah, they're just always on here. They kind of show that it works. You know, Doom and everything will run on this thing, obviously. So let's go back to what we actually care about. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is Game Boy. So this is the regular Game Boy. So that's quite nice because it's in a form factor that's obviously Game Boy Advance SP. And I really like playing regular original Game Boy games, but you can play it in this really nice little form factor. And this is a very pocketable, portable, practical design. As well as that, it's not a painted shell. It's actually, you know, the molded plastic, which means that I don't think this is going to scratch if you were to put it in your pocket and it hit your keys or something, which is really nice because ultimately this is a portable gaming device and you want it to be able to withstand a little bit of a beating. So let's play Super Mario Land and see how it runs. Where's that volume wheel? Oh my goodness me, if this is actually good, I'm going to be so happy. No screen tearing immediately, that's one thing I can tell. There's a tiny little bit of screen tear, definitely a tad, but that's not too bad. One thing I'm not a massive fan of is the borders around the side, so I wonder if we press start, and then probably this button. Yes, there we go. And we go down to settings and DMG border, no border. Perfect. Okay, great. And now it actually looks like it would if you were playing a Game Boy game on your Game Boy Advance SP. The shoulder buttons obviously are doing nothing. It's not going to widen it like it does on the original Game Boy, but damn. This is absolutely fantastic. Works perfectly well. You've got a sort of a green color palette on your... Oh, that's unfortunate. You've got a green color palette on your screen, although I'm sure if you go into settings, you can just change that. So you've got mono palette or you go no palette and have black and white. You can go default, auto, and then there's a bunch of different ones if you wanted different backlight colors and stuff like that. I would probably play on no palette because that's actually more authentic. If you were playing on a Game Boy Advance SP of what it would actually look like. But if you want the original pea green Game Boy experience, then be my guest, the option is on there. So that's absolutely great, and the sound is really good as well. I'm sure you heard that there. So let's come out of this. Obviously as well, you've got save state, so if I wanted to save this now, I just click in there and press save. And then if I was to turn the whole thing off and go back in, I can press that menu button again and go load state. And there it is, as well as a preview of where you were. So that is going to, by the way, be the same for all of them. It's just the menus are going to look different because you're playing at different emulators. One thing that's not completely ideal is that the screen resolution's actually slightly different. So I'm interested to see how Game Boy Advance SP will perform. Let's play Mario Kart. Okay, cool. That looks great, actually, so far. Now the colours are actually better than my camera is displaying. I think it's just because it's a little bit washed out. But I'm sure you can probably see on this front camera, they actually look fantastic. The colours are really, really vibrant. So it's also a really high quality screen. So this is usually in this menu where you can see if there's any sort of screen tear and stuff. So you guys can be the judge. It looks pretty good to me so far. And when that wheel rolls off as well, there's another indication. But yeah, this all looks great so far. I'm absolutely loving the form factor of this. This genuinely is something that I'm going to play, and this video has not been sponsored by anyone. I bought this thing myself, and it was 40 quid, which is a pretty good price. This is fantastic. This is absolutely excellent. This is so good. Hopefully you're getting a good enough sort of demonstration as to how good this thing really is. I'm not going to say it's the best screen I've ever witnessed in my life. It's definitely not got the smoothest of refresh rates, but it's definitely very good, especially for just the average person who wants to buy something that comes preloaded with a bunch of ROMs, works straight out of the box, no setup required, and just play their old games that they grew up playing or whatever. So that's a really, really nice little device, and that played very well. And you're buying something that looks like a Game Boy Advance SP, so I'm very relieved it runs Game Boy Advance SP very well. So you can go out, obviously, you've got your save state and stuff, and then we come back into the menu again, and we're not going to bother with NES. We are going to bother with a Super Nintendo, because that's always good to see if that works well. For that, we'll play Super Mario World. Right, let's see then if this works well. Ooh, there was a little bit of screen tear there. Not sure if you saw that. Also, that sound doesn't quite sound right. That doesn't sound quite right, getting those coins. Besides that, though, it worked perfectly well. Right, on to Mega Drive then. Let's play a little bit of Sonic the Hedgehog. Can you see the quality of that screen? It's so sharp. Unreal. Okay, here we go. It's actually so exciting to see how far these things have come. I haven't looked at one of these in so long. I kind of lost the will with playing them, but this one looking like a Game Boy Advance SP, I was obliged to pick it up. Like, just look at it. Although I wanted to not try and compete with all of the channels that were making videos on these things at the time, because they're really, really professional and stuff. And I just kind of want to have a look at these things and see if I enjoy them, and then maybe recommend them. And yeah, I really bloody like this thing. Wow, that worked absolutely flawlessly. We can see that it can run all of the basic ones very well. But let's try something a lot harder hitting, and let's go for PlayStation 1. Ah, there's no ROMs on there. Well, I don't have any PlayStation 1 ROMs, so that's going to make things quite hard. Well, okay, disappointing, although I have seen some people run PlayStation 1 on this, and it's exactly what you're going to expect. It's not perfect, but it will work. Whether or not that's an experience you want to have, I don't know. But let's take a look at WonderSwan. I wonder what WonderSwan games it has. Wow, I surprise myself sometimes. Oh, the screen quality on this thing is... oh... absolute classic. Look at that. I mean, it goes without saying, this is just fantastic. It's working perfectly well. It's nice and buttery smooth along the bottom there, and it looks fantastic. So, yeah, you know what? This is an absolute treat. £40 is what I paid for this, and that's quite a lot considering what you can actually get it for if you buy it from China. I just got this from the UK. I'll leave the link for the UK purchase link on eBay, and then I'll also find one in China as well in case you want to check that one out. I love it. I'm an absolute massive fan. This is something I'm definitely going to bring around with me in my pocket. Check out my second channel, because I think what I might do is maybe in a month's time do an update video on how I'm actually getting on with this thing. I mean, for 40 quid, it's not a massive gamble. You're definitely going to have fun with it. I can pretty much guarantee you that. But I would like to do a follow-up video in maybe a week or a month's time to see how it's actually doing as a daily player. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really, really like it. It's a beautiful design. It's very sort of minimalistic and modern, and it's cheaper than backlighting your Game Boy yourself if you've got a 001, and it comes with all the games on it and plays far more than just Game Boy, and they fit it into something which is actually smaller than an original Game Boy. You've got to give them a little bit of credit. I really enjoyed making this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.